Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Ezern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that road line on the hot dish highway. I love the mountains, I love the hills, winding rivers and whispering rills, but my heart with contentment fills. Out on the plains I love, out on the plains where the wind blows free, that is the place I am longing to be. There good fortune will smile on me, there let me live and die. I've wandered far from where I was born, sometimes happy, often forlorn, always remembering the wheat and the corn, out on the native plains. Out on the plains where the wind blows free, that is the place I am longing to be. There good fortune will smile on me, there let me live and die. On me the city casts no spells, I hate its noise and its sordid smells. Oh, what a relief when my road map tells I'm on the plains again. Out on the plains where the wind blows free, that's the place I am longing to be. There good fortune will smile on me, there let me live and die. If you would live where the skies are blue, North Dakota's the land for you, land where the people are brave and true. This is the land we love. Out on the plains where the wind blows free, that is the place I am longing to be. There good fortune will smile o'er me, there let me live and die. Misty moon in the autumn sky, listening to that wild goose cry. Sometimes I wish that I might fly back to Dakota's plains. Out on the plains where the wind blows free, that is the place I am longing to be. There good fortune will smile on me, there let me live and die. Well, a good opener for coming back after a little hiatus, a couple weeks off from the Willow Creek Folk School for, some family matters. We may share a little bit of news on those later on. What do you say, Dr. K?
All the good news.
The good news. I'll share the good news. Who wants the rest of it, right? And that's the plains I love. You know, last time I sang that on the Willow Creek Folk School, some weeks ago, and it was kind of to announce that, wait a minute, we've got the goods. This is a song that's a traditional song of the North Dakota Farmers Union. And it's passed down by word of mouth, and people will remember it and can sing it to you from memory. But it's also in the annual summer youth camp songbook of the North Dakota Farmers Union. The text I've got here came from a recent version of that songbook. And the song's written by Snorri Thorfinnsson, a man of Icelandic lineage from northeastern North Dakota, who went into extension work and taught vocational agriculture and ran various agricultural programs, retired to Fort Ransom in the Cheyenne River Valley, and started writing local history. Not going to go into that too much, but this song, it reflects his deep sentiments. I imagine Snorri coming up with these stanzas while out walking across the Coteau through the hills in the middle of North Dakota, perhaps in search of sharp-tailed grouse, because I know he was a bird hunter. But he loved the landscape. And one reason opening up with it tonight is this is also an opening week of classes at North Dakota State University, like many other institutions. And Monday night here, is the night I teach my course on the North American Plains. Wonderful group of students in that class. There always is for that class. And I opened it by singing Snorri Thorfinnson's song. We talked about, well, what kind of sentiments does this convey? What does it have to do with the nature of his relationship with his home country? That idea of having a home country on the prairies. And they did a good job. I made them go dig into a little bit here. Now, wait a minute. For instance, is North Dakota the land where the people are brave and true? We really want to go there and say that, well, there are more brave and true people in North Dakota than there are in Nebraska or in Oregon or New Jersey. Is that where we're going to go? Well, okay, so there's some myth building going on. And there's nothing here about 20 below, 25 below, and 15-inch blizzards on 60-mile-an-hour winds in the winter and that sort of stuff. Okay, so then we talked about this, but that there was a sensual song, too. You feel that wind blowing across the hills. And then we wound up with another song that I wrote, and then I wanted to give them the opportunity to compare that and say, okay, here are two ways of getting at the same thing, the relationship with a landscape of two people who have lived it for quite a few decades. And maybe there's another approach to that. So we'll be circling back on that. But that's Snorri Thorfinnsson, The Plains I Love. Been a busy day around Willow Creek for us, at least. Some of it's showing up here. I've been wrestling with a manuscript today, a good part of the day, making the final revisions, mandated revisions in an article about a ballad, about the ballad, The Stern Old Bachelor. And that's why I've got a copy of, or a bottle of Writer's Tears, a fine Irish whiskey, is sitting up there because, when you're revising your own work, there's always it can get a little wrenching. Dr. Kelly, of course, has been downstairs all day breaking our author's hearts herself with her work for North Dakota State University Press. Isn't that your job, pretty much?
No, I make people happy.
Oh, excellent. What have you been doing with the press lately?
Oh, are we on press time already?
We are.
Well, we just got another shipment of a brand new title called Gratitude with Dogs Under Stars. And this is a collection of poetry by Deborah Marquardt.
Give us that title again.
Gratitude with Dogs Under Stars.
By our friend Deborah Marquardt.
Yeah, so this has a collection of, it has some excerpts from 3 other collections. One of them that I worked with her on at New Rivers Press called Small Buried Things. So I'm glad to revisit that, but she has a 4th section in the book that is of all new poetry too. And it's a pretty hefty little poetry book. I think we're over 200 pages.
I haven't seen this. Have you brought it home yet?
I haven't gotten to see it.
Well, there you are. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in a room on campus.
Yeah, it's still in facilities. They haven't delivered it to our offices yet. So we're just on pins and needles to make sure it turned out all right. Eager to see it.
You are making the literature of the Northern Plains.
We are working on it, yes. And I have 14 students this semester to help that happen. Actually, there are 14 in the intro class and 3 that are interning with me. So we have quite a crew.
They're in good hands. Any other news?
From the press?
Or otherwise?
Do we get to talk about...
I think you can.
Well, people will know that we were away for a while because we went down south to DuGrant, Oklahoma, to meet our great-great-grandson.
No, not great.
Okay.
You have to wait a little while for that.
All right, he was super great grandson.
Our excellent great grandson.
I got carried away. His name is Miles Thomas Waters, and we are so happy to have him in the family.
Also known as
Badger.
the Badger.
And
with a capital T, the Badger.
We do have it in writing because while she was in labor, that's what they put on the bassinet, that they were saving a spot for the Badger.
Oh, my word. And
9 pounds, 30 ounces, 22 inches long.
a back to the basket post player, I believe,
Oh, okay.
in the making.
We shall see. But he might be a trombone player instead.
Well, you can be both. Not at the same time. That would be unwieldy. Well, yes, indeed. And we were down, and, you know, joyous events aren't always easy. So there were some complications, and it's a privilege to be of some help in these situations. How about that?
It was fortunate that we could be there because our granddaughter Meg had some complications that meant she had to be readmitted to the hospital. She did get to keep Miles at the hospital with her, but her husband was starting a brand new job, other family members working, and here we were just loitering. We got to be on hand to help, so we were very glad.
Well, you know, our Meg, the magpie, she's made of pretty good stuff.
It's so much fun to see your grandchildren being parents.
I don't know.
She's a good mommy.
I find it kind of
husband
spooky.
is a good dad. So that was so joyful to see.
Well, we will shift gears. Oh, I suppose we should mention also we celebrated her birthday yesterday. You forgot already?
Angie's birthday.
Angie, the history dog, 9 years old yesterday. If we should bring her up here to show all the gray around her muzzle now. Oh my goodness.
So.
Yeah.
She's a fairly distinguished looking.
Well, on the line.
Line gray hair around here.
No. We favor it. We'll shift gears a little bit here on the ballad selections in a moment, because I'm about to call up the Ballad of Quantrill, or as it was originally titled, Quantrill's Raid on Lawrence, which took place on, I'm pretty sure it's August 21st, and so we're celebrating, no, we're observing the anniversary of the bloody raid on Lawrence, Kansas in 1863 by William Clark Quantrill and his band of border raiders over from Missouri. And this is a ballad that it was completely lost until some years ago. So this would be in the mid-1980s. I had a young fellow working for me there and working on a master's degree in history named Mark Weeks. And he was combing through newspapers looking for something else. This was before digitized newspapers, you know. Looking for other things entirely. And he came in and he said, look at this, look at this. And it was Quantrill's Raid on Lawrence, published in the newspaper in Council Grove, Kansas. And I recognized that's the same song that John Lomax and other song catchers picked up. They got it from word of mouth after 1900, and here it is at the very origin in 1863. It is a funny little song. But we should establish something about William Clark Quantrill, the most famous of all the bushwhackers of the Civil War era. And Dr. Kelly is going to bring forth a work of literary nonfiction from the 1990s devoted to Quantrill and read a particular selection.
I get to sit on the cream can today. All right. This is from The Devil Knows How to Ride, the true story of William Clark Quantrill and his Confederate raiders. Little is known of Quantrill's life during the early summer of 1863. He made a few minor raids and set a couple of ambushes shortly after his return from Richmond. It is certain that he spent some time planning the Lawrence raid, and it seems likely that he whiled away many hours romancing a lovely young Jackson County girl, Sarah Catherine King. Nevertheless, his fame, or infamy, continued to grow, and newspapers had him writing here or there, taking part in one or another raid or skirmish, threatening this town or that military outpost. He was beginning to have a mythic presence, and fittingly, songs were being written about him, which were sung in Missouri parlors and around campfires, and which would be preserved and collected by musicologists 50 and even 80 years later. Songs such as this: "Arise, my brave boys, the moon is in the west, and we must be gone ere the dawning of the day. The hounds of old Pennock will find but the nest, for the quantrill he seeks will be far, far away. Their toils after us shall ever be vain. Let them scout through the brush and scour the plain. We'll pass through their midst in the dead of night. We are lions in combat and eagles in flight. And when they are weary and the chase given o'er, we'll descend like thunderbolts down from the cloud. We'll ride through their ranks and bathe in their gore, smite down the oppressor and humble the proud. Few shall escape us, and few shall be spared, for keen is our saber, in vengeance 'tis bared. For none are so strong, so mighty in fight, as the warrior who battles for our southern right." Kansans composed less flattering songs about Quantrell the ruffian, of course, and it is oddly appropriate that the song quoted above, Quantrell's Call, was sung to the tune of the Pirate's Serenade. Many of his adversaries and victims routinely used phrases to describe him and his men that evoked the negative aura of buccaneers, cutthroats, freebooters, and even land pirates. It was said they rode under the black flag, and that Quantrill had a personal Jolly Roger whose design supposedly consisted of red letters on a plain dark background, misspelling his name as Quantrell with an E. Finally, like Captain Kidd and other fabled pirates, legends persisted that Quantrell had buried a hoard of Lawrence treasure, which was long and eagerly sought.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly, for establishing the idea of an outlaw hero, which people in Kansas don't think of. That Quantrill would be regarded as a hero, but he was in its own constituency in Missouri. That section about the, on the other hand, ballads that came out of Kansas, which were critical, as this writer says, of Quantrill, is pretty much entirely based upon the article about the ballad I'm about to sing that Mr. Weeks and I wrote and published in the Mid-America Folklore Quarterly in 1985 or 6 or something like that. And that ballad, I'll use the word, it's complex. It's a tricky ballad. It partakes quite a bit of the outlaw hero genre, but in the middle it flips. And then the ballad takes up the pursuit of Quantrill back to Missouri. And then it shifts the chorus. The chorus is different. And then it returns to the original chorus at the end. The writer is flip-flopping. And I believe he's toying with us, you see. He's toying with the public. There's some inside jokes going on there in the people around Council Grove, Kansas, who will understand that this author, of course, as did everyone else there, hates Quantrill, but at the same time, he's not real fond of Jim Lane, Senator Jim Lane, either. And so, well, you have a listen and see if you pick up on this ambivalence. So I'm about to sing Quantrill's Raid on Lawrence. And if you want to stomp your feet a little bit on this one, that would be appropriate. Come all loyal people, I pray, lend an ear. Of Quantrill the robber you quickly will hear. With his gang of robbers he marched double quick time to plunder and burn Lawrence just over the line. With the routing and the shouting and the raising a yell, just like some demons where I can't tell. They were intoxicated with powder and wine when they came to burn Lawrence just over the line. Now this happened in August 1863, and it was a sad sight, you all must agree, to see the dead and the dying lying scattered around. The torch was applied and they burnt the whole town. There were 200 murdered by this rebel band. Never before was such slaughter in all of our land. And by the bushwhackers, the Missouri guerrillas, led by that ruffian Captain Quantrill, all routing and shouting and raising the yell, just like some demons from where I can tell. We're intoxicated with powder and wine, and they came to burn Lawrence just over the line. When they came to Lawrence, well, I forgot to say, Jim Lane, he was up at the breaking of day. He saw him a-comin' and he got in a fright, and he jumped in a corn crib to get out of sight. Now when they were gone, Jim Lane soon come out to see who was murdered just thereabout. He rallied the living to double quick time and followed old Quantrill back over the line. Come on, says Jim Lane to the boys in the rear, while we have the old flag, we have nothing to fear. We swear to defend it, and by it we'll stand, till all of these robbers are drove from our land. Come think of all your soldiers and don't be afraid, just think of the rebel widows by this rebel raid. All loyal free men together combine, we'll go put down Quantrill just over the line. We're gonna chase them and hunt them, and we won't stop a day till all those bushwhackers are out of the way. We'll prime up our rifles and take a true aim. If we should kill Quantrill, we won't be to blame. Come on, says Jim Lane to the boys in the rear, while we have the old flag, we have nothing to fear. We swear to defend it, and by it we'll stand, till all these robbers are drove from our land. Now we run them to Grand River, they thought it was cute, then they scattered out to retard our pursuit. But we were close upon them and unto their time, but I think there are 40 that won't cross that line. Come on, says Jim Lane to the boys in the rear, while we have the old flag, we have nothing to fear. We swear to defend it, and by it we'll stand, till all of these robbers are drove from our land. Now my song, it is ended when I sing you this verse. Perhaps you've heard better, perhaps you've heard worse, but if there's anybody here who don't like my rhyme, Yeah, you can go and chase Quantrill just over the line, 'cause these are outing and shouting and raising the yell, just like some demons where I can't tell. They were intoxicated with powder and wine, and they came to burn Lawrence just over the line. Oh, well, I kind of hope Nancy Kelly's listening tonight. Or maybe some other University of Kansas fans, but you know, bygones.
I do see a boo Jim Lane. Yeah, that's from Nancy, all right.
All right. There's all kinds of stuff. You know, we're very seasonal here at the Willow Creek Folk School. What do we got here? For one thing, Dr. Kelly's roses are back. You know, we should run the camera around the window out there in the evening gloaming. They are in second life for the year, aren't they?
Yes, they're spectacular.
They're going
right now.
bonkers, right? And these, you know this kind of sunflower?
I'm sure you're going to tell us.
well, most helianthus. Okay, so we got the domestic sunflowers growing around us here, and that's one big head, you know, one big blossom. They're bred for
that are 5 and 6 feet tall
and taller.
Yeah.
And then you have the other species of helianthus, in which they don't have the large seeds for consumption, but they have branches out in all directions, you know, a lot of flowers on them, but it's a single flower at the end of each stalk. And then these are the Maximilian sunflowers, which you can kind of see you often have multiple stalks, yes, or branches off of one stalk and multiple blossoms on a single stalk. And they can get quite spectacular. They're growing around the bar ditches and the fence rows. I remember how rank these would grow in the foothills of Kansas. And I always associated with dust, because it would be late summer like this, and those limestone roads would just be boiling up white-gray dust. But they're along the roadside, those magnificent helianthus. And that's similar just right here where we are in Cass County, North Dakota, with our clay minimum maintenance roads. Are pretty darn dusty right now too. But off there to the side, these wonderful splashes of iridescent yellow. Around our place here on Willow Creek, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I was just discussing with Suzanne whether we're actually going to pick some of our fruits that grow here on the place. We got a wonderful stand of choke cherries, you know. I think I was showing some of these off the other day. Such a beautiful, beautiful fruit, the choke cherry. But I looked in the pantry, and there's all kinds of jars of choke cherry syrup and stuff like that still sitting in there, so I don't know about that. Likewise, our plums, the native plums here, these aren't the sandhill plums, Prunus angustifolia, like you might have in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, where they sometimes call them Chickasaw plums. These are Prunus americana, which my grandmother and Aunt Emma used to refer to as shelter belt plums, because they planted them during New Deal days in government shelter belts down there. And they were previously unknown there, but they're the kind that grow on the northern plains. And some of our trees bear yellow fruit, and some of them bear the red fruit, a little bit smaller. Anyway, I might pick just enough of those up to make a plowman kuchen. And outside the window on my right here, the Dolgo crab. Wonderful, wonderful crab apples for jelly making. They're the best jelly making. This is a Siberian crab apple brought over to this country, I believe, in 1898 by Niels Ebbison Hansen of the South Dakota Agricultural Experiment Station. And I mix them with choke cherry juice and others to make jellies gel and to lighten up the flavor of something like choke cherry. They're wonderful jelly crab apples. I don't believe they will grow on the central and southern plains because they're a Siberian crabapple. Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Part of the seasons, right? Mm-hmm. And that leads to the next ballad, believe it or not. Because what else happens this time of year? Well, a couple of things. One of them is we're all back in school. Now, we got to thinking just how many teachers we have in our family.
Right.
In the generations younger than us, it's just teachers everywhere. Teachers, teachers, teachers.
Your daughter, Emily. My daughter, Austin.
And
my son, Austin.
And our son-in-law, Scott.
And our son-in-law, Scott. And then...
Meg.
Oh, and also son-in-law. Let's see, how is this? Stepson-in-law? I don't know. Steve Carlton. How does he fit in? He's your son.
He's a teacher.
Yeah, but he's a teacher. And then in the next generation, we have
Meg.
Austin, and we have Meg and her husband, Michael. Does that cover it?
I think that's all of them. That's enough.
I hope we didn't leave anybody out, but yeah. We have quite a teaching crew, so everybody's kind of on the same cycle.
And this led me to contemplate kind of the teaching tradition in this part of the country. And it's changed a great deal from the days of the one-room country schoolhouse, where it was a female occupation, of course, for single women. And the school marm had an interesting position in a community. She was young. She may or may not have attended college. She might have a normal training certificate she earned in high school or by summer institute without ever going to a college campus. But then was given charge of a school with grades 1 through 8 all present in the classroom and supposed to figure out how to teach them, which they did or they didn't. I'm sure there was a great variation in that. But school marm had a social position too. I remember I used to go to gatherings of ranchers in the Flint Hills of Kansas and then begin to meet ranchers' wives. And darned if they weren't all former school teachers because they'd come in to teach school and then married off. And then they bring another school marm. And so this was kind of it was almost a mail order bride situation. School marms would be coming into the communities, and the bachelors would show up at the literary meeting at the schoolhouse, maybe write a ballad and sing it to impress the school marm, And they were visible. Inevitably, of course, as young single women coming into country communities, there was a fair bit of what we would call in the 21st century objectification going on. Yeah?
Okay.
And it shows in a ballad that I'm about to present, which I sung once before about this time. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. Pick your school marm. Now that's a double entendre because school teachers would be seeking positions and there would be a sorting out going on by word of mouth largely, matching up young female school teachers with one-room country schools across the countryside. And so local school boards would pick their school marm. And then the next process began, but that young woman became visible in the rural community, and there were always bachelors, you see, and then she would be the object of romance. Pick your school marm, in other words. It starts in 1899. It appears in newspapers across the Central Plains. This ballad called Pick Your School Marm. No melody is indicated. But I'm going to sing it. I've set it to a melody known on the Great Plains at the time. It's not an inappropriate one. And it mostly circulated in Kansas, some in neighboring states. I think I previously sang a Kansas text, and this time I'm going to sing an Oklahoma text of Pick Your School Marm. If I can get my paper shuffled here, because there's a lot of words to it. All right, this appeared in the Herald Democrat of Beaver, Oklahoma. That's in the Oklahoma Panhandle. The teachers of Beaver County met here last week in their annual association, and a most profitable session was held Thursday and Friday, including evening sessions. Thursday night, a reception held at the Christian Church, at which time the teachers of the Beaver schools entertained the visitors. That's the town teachers were entertaining the country teachers. Yeah. Refreshments served. Friday evening, Dr. Phelan of the State University, that would be the one in Norman, addressed the teachers, and his lecture was one of the best that our people had an opportunity to hear for a long time. It was thoroughly enjoyed. The day sessions were taken up with the usual teachers' programs, all of which were splendid, and goes to show that Beaver County schools have an able and efficient corps of instructors. Mrs. Thad Green of Beaver, an ex-school marm, was reminded by the presence of the teacher of an old scrapbook selection she had carefully preserved since the day she wielded the rod, and it was particularly fitting at this time. We are indebted to Mrs. Green for the following. All right. Oh, schoolmarms short, schoolmarms tall, schoolmarms with no shape at all, schoolmarms lean, schoolmarms fat, schoolmarms in their summer hats, schoolmarms handsome, schoolmarms homely, schoolmarms plain, schoolmarms comely, schoolmarms pert, petite and pretty, schoolmarms wise and schoolmarms witty, schoolmarms with a twinkling eye, schoolmarms light and schoolmarms dark, schoolmarms here who never spar, schoolmarms freckled, schoolmarms fair, schoolmarms with long brick red hair, schoolmarms charming, schoolmarms sweet, schoolmarms with Chicago feet, schoolmarms here for mental learning, schoolmarms here with mischief burning, schoolmarms having mental taste, schoolmarms who have gone to waste, schoolmarms with red rosy lips, schoolmarms broad across the hips, schoolmarms looking meek as Moses, schoolmarms with big Roman noses, schoolmarms small, schoolmarms slender, schoolmarms old and far from tender, schoolmarms proud, schoolmarms haughty, schoolmarms aching to be naughty, schoolmarms here with go and dash, schoolmarms looking for a mash, schoolmarms reared from blue blood stock, schoolmarms that would stop a clock, schoolmarms who are up to date, schoolmarms just a trifle late, schoolmarms with a winning smile, schoolmarms sober all the while, schoolmarms green as emerald hue, schoolmarms quick as lightning too, schoolmarms here of every nation, schoolmarms here from all creation, schoolmarms bless us everywhere, take your pick and call it square. Well, if I can make up a little bit for some of the things I've just said, I want to recall an exemplary schoolmarm. And some people from my home territory in the middle of Kansas will know this person. Miss Loretta, everybody called her Lori Holloway, who, when I last heard, was still living in Ellenwood, Kansas. But when I started school at District 9 Pleasant Valley School, the second schoolhouse that was on the acre that was carved out a corner of our home quarter section there. When I started school there in some year you might guess, Miss Holloway had charge of the school in her second year teaching, and she was 17 years old. And I realized, I really don't know that much about her, even though some 30 years later, I went out to teach a summer teacher's course in Great Bend, Kansas, and who walks into the room? It's Miss Holloway, for Pete's sake, into my classroom. Well, the first reference I find to her in historical documentation is in the Sterling newspaper. She came from the town of Sterling, Kansas, in the Sterling Sundial. And this news note: Marilyn Unruh, Diz Maris, Anita Sue Hubble, and Janice Harmon were hostesses to a progressive dinner party Tuesday, August the 31st. The invited guests were Bev Geist, Mary Ann Manmorman, Jan Engebrecht, Sharon Brothers, Loretta Holloway, Zudi Zoe Farney, and Esther Ann Austin. These girls were all 14, 15 years old. After the meal, the girls returned to Diz Maris's house for a slumberless party. The gang finally drifted off to sleep about 2:30 in the morning. Not long after that, the Holloway family moved over to Great Bend. I find notes that she's going back and drinking cokes with the girls in Sterling when she's visiting back for a little while from Great Bend. I find that in 1958, she was a guest at a tea in Great Bend with a number of guests. She's moving in polite society in that town. Ah, yes. It's a note that she had graduated from high school 2 years before, and now her fellow graduates were getting together for a tea there in town. All very respectable families. She joined the Business and Professional Women in Great Bend. She, having started teaching school with no college education at all, just Summer Normal Institute, then went back and got her college degree by taking summer courses at Fort Hays State in Hays, which is about 60 miles away. So at some point during this time, she picked up a failure to stop at a stop sign ticket. I believe it was in Suzank. It probably was on the way up to her back from Hays. She was a very active member of the Iota chapter of the Women's Teaching Sorority, the name of which is escaping me right now. I don't know. She had a long and very distinguished teaching career, and she started with 2 years in a one-room school at Pleasant Valley, Barton County. And those 2 years were the last 2 years of the existence of that school, because enrollment dipped below 10. The county superintendent closed the school, and all of us then went to town school after that. On account of Miss Holloway's teaching, we were all a year or more ahead of the curriculum that was being taught to us when we went into town school. Maybe that's enough said right there.
Did she not win an award?
She was elected to the National Teacher Hall of Fame, and I wrote her a reference for that. Yes, indeed. Do we have any good friends on the chat line tonight, or any troublemakers, or any newcomers?
Oh, not troublemakers right now, but we do want to give a good shout out to Jody Meckel and her husband. She's referring to their home right now as Recuperation Central. Usually they would be on a yacht somewhere or a cruise somewhere right now, but her husband had some medical difficulties from which he is recuperating now.
Yeah, fairly traumatic ones, but he seems to be bouncing back, and we sure pray for the best for you, Jody and Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do have someone who asks, what do Chicago feet smell like?
It's not the smell that is the point. There was a folk belief in the 19th century that the women from the city of Chicago had the largest feet of women anywhere in America. Now, there was, what do you call somebody who studies feet? Is that,
a podiatrist.
A podiatrist. I was wondering if I got that right. A podiatrist then responded to that folk belief at about the time the song was circulating, probably because of the song, and to say that he's got the data, and women in Chicago have average size feet.
So they smell like everybody else's too.
Well, nobody attested to that. Well, there are other aspects to the seasonality of the country here right now. We get around to events in the area a fair bit, and then I post them on my Facebook group, Heritage Trails, a Facebook group for heritage travelers on the Northern Plains. And we're not going to get there, but it'd be fun to be in Dresden on Sunday for the 6th annual picnic at the museum. Cavalier County Museum picnic, 11:30 to 2:30 on Sunday. That's 5 miles west of Langdon. You can find that at Heritage Trails. Another set of events that have been going on through summer, late summer, and now run on into early fall are the threshing bees, steam engine threshing shows. There's one coming up in Drake on the 9th and 10th. It's a good one, I hear, and it's dedicated to Wild Bill Crumwitty, who was a great antique engine collector for many years. And you and I will be at one.
We'll be at the South Central Threshing Show
in Braddock,
where I volunteer every fall during their parade and their whole weekend of events at the Braddock News Letterpress Museum, where my students go in the fall too to learn about letterpress printing.
And we'll check in with you there, but Angie and I will be spending most of our time chasing the sharptails around the hills there.
Yes, that will be fine.
We're starting to get notices too about a real ritual. This isn't common on the Central Plains or on the Southern Plains. I mean, there are events similar, but the phrase fall supper has a particular specific meaning in the prairie provinces of Canada and in North Dakota in particular. And we have favorite fall suppers, often served at churches, sometimes other community facilities, as fundraisers for local groups and as get-togethers and community builders. One of the great ones is the St. Mary's Fall Supper near Daisy, North Dakota. Homemade sauerkraut. Oh, maybe when it gets closer, I'll tell you the story of homemade sauerkraut.
I don't want to drool this whole
at St. Mary's. It is the best. And that's coming up on Sunday, October the 1st. We'll have to check our calendars. Maybe we'll run up. I was there last year, think of it. Similar fall supper deal, ham and meatballs at Park River Bible Camp, and that's going to be on Sunday, September 24th, 11 to 2. And I think Melanie Thornburg posted this notice about the Park River Bible Camp dinner. And it seems to me they used to serve lutefisk for this dinner. But maybe that's a second dinner they have at Park River Bible Camp. Melanie, you can straighten us out on that if you would.
Because nobody wants to miss out on a chance for lutefisk.
That's right. Maybe once a year. Here, and I was looking at some of this stuff, Dr. K, and I discovered something we've got to get to. in the little community of Heimdall, which is, how would I put it, north of Fessenden, east of Harvey, right? You missed the curve at Fessenden or Harvey, and you end up in a little town called Heimdall. I don't know how many people are in Heimdall. 20? Whatever it is. The Heimdall breakfast is a thing. They posted pictures of the food that they serve there. I mean, they put out the groaning board for a breakfast. And here's the thing. I'm looking at their notice. They don't say where it is. It's the Heimdall breakfast, the last Sunday of every month, they say.
Maybe there's only one place for it to be, and
everybody knows it. The proceeds go to the Heimdall Recreation Organization, and they don't say where it is. I think it's the idea, well, if you go to Heimdall, how can you miss it? Just look for where there's cars parked, and that's where the breakfast is. Now, I don't know just what the deal is. It's once a month. If I were going to guess, I'd say Heimdall is one of those little towns that has a pastor who serves a 3-point or 4-point parish, and they don't have services every Sunday. But when they have church there, it's just my guess. But somebody who knows about the Heimdall breakfast, go on Heritage Trail and tell us about it. Heritage Trails and tell us about it. And sometime we're going to be there when it's being served.
Sounds good to me.
And sometime we're going to get to this. I mean, we'd only have to go down to Kindred or something like that to experience this. Hang on. When you're driving the prairies and the work week is done, the horizon aglow at the setting of the sun, an intense efflorescence your spirit invites, and you feel the attraction of Friday night lights. Now it's 2 bits and 4 bits and 6 bits a dollar. I'm too damned old to stand up and holler. But of all of our country town rituals and rites, the one I most savor is Friday night lights. Oh yes, we've got spirit, of that there's no lack. So push 'em back, push 'em back, push 'em way back. There's a rooster on a fence post and a tractor in a ditch. Come on, Hosmer, and let's beat it, wish. Now, we have one more tribute to make here yet. You notice Ken Schmier is out of the hospital?
Oh, yes.
And home, in his home with the cats in Ellendale, North Dakota.
6 weeks stay.
Do you know who taught me that cheer?
Is that going to be good?
There's a rooster on a fence post, a tractor in a ditch. Come on, Hosmer, let's beat Ipswich. That was Ken Schmier. Thank you, Ken. Now it's 2 bits and 4 bits and 6 bits, $8. I'm all too damned old to stand up and holler. But of all of our country town rituals and rites, the one I most savor is Friday night lights. We don't care if you're beat up and your chances are gone. Just pick yourself up off the field and play on. You know that we love you the same as before, but score us a touchdown and we'll love you more. Now it's 2 bits and 4 bits and 6 bits, $8. I'm too damned old to stand up and holler. But of all of our country town rituals and rites, the one I most savor is Friday night lights. It's not really true that your life is a game, but some of the lessons you learn are the same. Here's a piece of advice you can take if you please. Watch out for those trap plays, take care of your knees. That's 2 bits and 4 bits and 6 bits, $1. I'm too damned old to stand up and holler. But of of all of our country town rituals and rites. One I most savor is Friday night lights, where the deer and the antelope play. Now it's 2 bits and 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar. I'm too damned old to stand up and holler, but of all of our country town rituals and rites, the one I most savor is Friday night lights. Misty moon in an autumn sky, listening to the wild goose cry. Sometimes I wish that I might fly back to the Ghost Plain. Now my song, it has ended when I sing you this verse. Perhaps you heard better, perhaps you heard worse, but if anyone here says they don't like my rhyme, and then go and hunt Quantrill over the line, where the deer and the antelope play. Seldom is heard a discouraging word, and skies are not cloudy, all the day. No, the skies are not cloudy all day. Dr. Kelly.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.